Hi everyone, we are in our seventh Watch Going On with Cate Lamb, the Global Director of the Water Security at CDP and the UNFCCC COP26 High Level Climate Action Champion Lead. Hi Kate, how are you?
Hi, Nikki. I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. Just struggling to carry my business card with all of these titles on has now gone from being this long to this long this year. Thank you
I
for
can,
getting
I can
me
imagine.
those.
Yeah, well, COP26 is around the corner, and youth all over the world will follow the decisions makers' climate promises. And as you know, climate crisis is a water crisis. So, how are conversation being raised ahead of COP?
It's a really exciting time, Nikki, and the youth around the world, I think, are really vital to the success of the outcomes, both at COP
Yeah.
and beyond. So we're really, really encouraged by the continued increasing demands that we're hearing from that huge variety of young people around the world. Please keep it up. I was appointed as the water lead for the High Level Climate Champions a year ago, and part of my job is ultimately to mobilize as many non-state actors. So these are individuals, companies, financial institutions, scientists, citizens from around the world, youth and religious organizations to shout loudly about the importance of water in the COP processes and to ensure that the politicians and negotiators harness the power of water in their NDCs, striking for more ambitious outcomes at COP itself, and to ensure that we are ultimately really well placed to succeed in achieving the goals of the Paris Agreement. Because as you know, if we do not harness the power of water and water-related ecosystems, then we will not meet the goals of the Paris Agreement, both from a mitigation and a resilience perspective. And so we've been working to galvanize momentum from amongst these different actors of society so that they shout loudly about the ambitions that they have on water, which in turn should, in theory, give the politicians and negotiators the confidence that they need to move ahead with their own ambitious plans. The concept that sits at the heart of this is called an ambition loop. When you have bold business and bold investment and bold citizens shouting for ambitious outcomes and showcasing their leadership, we then see that in turn governments respond with their own ambitious outcomes.
And what about gender? As you know, women and girls are the first ones to be most impacted by the climate crisis. How can we encourage decision makers, our politicians, to take this matter seriously and into consideration?
I think the first step is to continue to amplify those voices and not necessarily just amplify them into the general ether, into the broad public space, but to amplify them in very, very strategic places so that the people whose ears need to be alerted to these voices are indeed in the right place at the right time. So one of those opportunities that we've seized this year is on the 5th of November, which is the Water Day. That's going to be the focus for the day at COP. It also happily coincides with the Youth Day. And so we're able to bring the two themes together and use it to showcase the best that the water community has to offer. And I'm really very proud as the curator of that session to be able to tell you that the vast majority of the speakers are from women like us and girls like us. They will be represented and have an opportunity to have their voices heard inside the blue zone, calling for this ambitious outcome that we're all seeking at the moment. So I think that's going to be a vital aspect on that one day. But fundamentally, it's also ensuring that the negotiating process, so that ultimately results in the plans that countries will implement in order to achieve the outcomes that we're seeking, that they too speak to the role of women and girls is as actors, not just as victims on the road to future successful, more sustainable transition that we're after.
And talking about young people, many times there are complaints about climate summits like COP because young people don't feel that they are really heard. What are you doing to change this and ensure real youth participation at the COP?
I think you can rest assured that that message has been heard loud and clear within the high-level champions themselves. We have two champions that I work on behalf of. One is Nigel Topping and one is Gonzalo Munoz, and both are huge advocates for the role of youth in the negotiating process. And so they have given all of us, so me, I'm the water lead, there's an energy lead, a finance lead, a shipping lead. We've all been given the mandate to go out and raise as much as many youth voices as we possibly can during the 2 weeks of the negotiating process. So every one of us is working on curating a series of events throughout the 2 weeks where a whole range of youth and young voices will be emerging throughout the process. I'm really very proud to be able to represent voices from young wetland ambassadors all the way through to the World Youth Parliament for Water representatives, through to Indigenous youth from across the world coming together to call for water to be fundamental to climate plans from here on out.
And I would like to conclude this conversation with two very important questions that are linked. The first one is, why do you think that sometimes the results are not achieved, as in the last COP that took place in Madrid at the COP? And what do you think needs to happen at COP26 for it to be successful?
Well, I think there's a whole range of reasons why plans have not succeeded to date. Some of them are really very difficult to implement, right? Where if it was easy, I'm sure we would have succeeded so far. But sitting at the heart of the problem, or maybe indeed the opportunity, if we look at it with a sense of optimism, is the lack of political will to prioritize these really tough decisions. And if we go back to this concept of the ambition loop again, which sits at the heart of the high-level climate champions team that I'm part of, the idea is that one of the only ways, or a secret to success in getting more political will and more bold outcome from policy and decision makers on that front, is to demonstrate that the rest of society is behind them, and that they actively encourage more, stronger, better outcomes, and that they are already acting on their own way and in their own paths and plans in order to implement projects. So showcasing loudly the actions that you want politicians to implement and demonstrating that you are in support of that and that you want them to go further and faster is absolutely the right strategic decision to be taken. And we would like to see more of those voices emerging, more of those solutions coming to the fore, and more pressure being placed on the decision makers, as you're so beautifully doing.
Thank you, Kate, for this conversation. I love it, and I hope to see you soon at the COP.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nikki, and I look forward to seeing you there.